Good morning, Fiona, and welcome, and thank you for joining me this morning. For anybody that doesn't know Fiona Thornewill MBE, explorer and international motivational speaker. And I'll let Fiona give you a little bit more about her and what she's done and what she's achieved before we sort of go into her story and what's motivated to her and what's driven her and how she's combined all that she's done with holding down a full-time job. Okay, over to you, Fiona.
Hey, thank you very much. Well, I have been fortunate with, I suppose, the opportunities that have been given to me, and I've seized them, if you like, but I have become the first British woman to walk to the North Pole, to the South Pole, and then I also broke the world record when I went solo and unsupported to the South Pole. So, yeah, I've had fantastic opportunities given to me, but like I said, I've seized them and I've run with them.
Absolutely. And you've also done one more recently as well, haven't you? You've done Capitan and climbed there as well.
Yes, I was invited along with a gentleman called Hans Florine, and at the time he had the world record for climbing the nose, and he had, the average time is 3 to 6 days. He had climbed it in 2 hours and 23 minutes, and I did his 100th ascent with him for my 50th birthday. So yes, yeah, that was amazing.
I know, and I saw the pictures and it was very, very scary.
I was sleeping on this portaledge, and I remember the first night I said to, I was sharing it with Hans, and I said, I will let you sleep on the outside, and then all you've got above you is sky, and below you is obviously the ground and everything else. You're looking down the valley floor, and cars just look like ants, if you like. It was out of this world.
Well, I've just got vertigo. You're telling me about it. It's just, and I have seen the photographs, and it is, oh my gosh, it's just awe-inspiring. But I guess what I really want to do is sort of go back in time a little bit, and then we can sort of chart your journey to that point and sort of obviously beyond to where you are now. Because actually, you know, it's so inspirational what you've done and what you've achieved. And obviously, we've known each other for, I was counting it back, I think since about 1996 or 7 or something like that. It's rather a long time. We were both out of primary school, I think.
Absolutely.
Snappers, of course. But obviously, I've known you and I've seen all these things, but not always understood and spoken to as we're going to do this morning, so we're in a bit more depth about all that you've done, although obviously I've got snapshots along the way. But as I met you back in the mid to late 90s, when we were working in recruitment together, at that time obviously you'd met Mike, but prior to that you'd obviously had a business of your own. You'd been looking good and feeling good and looking good, something like that. I remember it being a bit of a catchphrase. As you had a gym in Newark, didn't you?
Yes.
And that was when you were married to your first husband, Bill. Yeah. And obviously, very, very sadly, a tragedy occurred. So can you sort of tell us a little bit more about that time?
Yes, yeah. As you mentioned, I was first married to Bill, and we were childhood sweethearts, and so we were together from the age of 14, married at 20, but tragically I was 25, he was 26, he was killed in a motorcycle accident, and so obviously at that stage my world, it collapsed, it fell apart, but then with time I realised I had two ways to look at this. And then I remember thinking to myself, I needed to make the most of every day, and I needed to go to bed thinking that 9 times out of 10 I'd made the most of that day, because Bill had suddenly been cheated of his life. I was here, and so I suppose that has inspired me to make the most of my life and do things. My solo journey that I mentioned I did was in memory of Bill. That was for him, if you like, as well as myself, to push myself to my total boundaries and everything else. So yeah, that's one thing that has made me make the most of my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's only fair to Bill.
Yeah, and I've seen that drive and that motivation that you've had, but a lot of that has come with a tremendous amount of support, hasn't it, and encouragement from meeting Mike, your second husband, current husband, present to Fiona.
Yes, yeah. I mean, Mike has always understood what it was like, because tragically he had lost his father at the age of 20 through cancer. So he knows what that loss is like. And to some extent, he remembered what it's like for his mother. So he became very, he could comfort me, he could understand, we could talk in depth about it. I could still cry to this day about Bill to Mike. He's always supported me and knows it's part of what has made me who I am, and never to forget Bill, which is fantastic. But from that, then, because he's realised that life is short and he's had his own dreams, that he's inspired me to do what I wanted, and is also an incredible person, because he wants everybody to achieve the best of what they can do and utilise their talents, if you like. So yeah, you know, there usually is a machine behind, you know, how people succeed, and Mike's definitely my machine in the background.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, that's not to take away that sort of inner drive, because, you know, you've got to have had that to start with for that sort of drive to be supported. But to have somebody that encourages and supports is so powerful.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, you met, I know, through that tragedy, because Mike had kind of been set a task of looking after you before you even knew him.
I know, which is just amazing. So
yeah, so that's
like it's meant to be.
Absolutely, synchronicity and everything. But
Yeah.
you know, I remember, I think, am I right? Did before you did all of the walks, was that when you went to Bangkok? Did you do Bangkok on your own before the walks, or was that before you did the pole, or not? I can't remember.
No, you're right. I did Bangkok, and I thought I was big and brave going over there all on my own with my rucksack. And I remember packing my bag, and I put all these beautiful toiletries in there. Mike picked it, weighed it, and went, "Fee, you don't want all of that," and shook it out. And all the beautiful, you know, girly products really were out, and the nearest I had to any moisturiser with mosquito lotion. So hey,
yes. Yes, and I remember him packing off, and I must admit I was so impressed that you went off on your own to Bangkok. I mean, wow, that's a journey in itself, but obviously not one we're going to sort of explore in depth today. But yeah, I mean, that's quite amazing. And I also recall, I just love these anecdotes. I just love them, because I think when you started going out on some of these sort of expeditions with Mike, did you not take your lipstick and hairdryer with you?
Oh, I did, yes. I couldn't always use it in some of the extreme places we were. I remember going to Spitsbergen, which is where Mike and I initially went, and just because we couldn't afford to go to the South Pole, so that was the nearest we could get to like an Arctic experience. And I did take my vanity case, yes. It didn't go on my sledge with me, but you know, rocking
the lippy.
Yeah,
a girl needs a lippy, doesn't she?
Yes, I do. I need everything.
So you, obviously with Mike, then you were exploring, you started to do a lot more adventuring, although as I've already alluded to, you'd had run your own gym in Newark, and so you've always been sort of fairly fit and sort of driven in sort of that field, and very, very motivated. And I should just put a little bit of a quick anecdote here. Fee got me running. Such a hilarious story.
What were you going to say?
Well, you know, we would run from work, wouldn't we? And you'd encourage me in my running. However, being such a novice, I didn't realise the whole point of if it rains, you just get wet. And I attempted running with my umbrella up, which is hilarious. To give Fee her credit, she didn't say, "Sarah, what are you doing?"
I probably just thought it. Been very polite.
Pardon?
I probably just thought it. I was being very polite.
I haven't run with an umbrella since.
No, it's not aerodynamic, is it?
You've got to run like that.
Yes.
So what then? So that aside, I mean, I think it's great, because obviously, you know, you are serious about what you do, but there's so much, you know, humour in what you do as well, and it's great that we can laugh, and you know, you have a joke and you lip it. It's just great, and it sort of adds a different dimension to you as an explorer, to these sort of heavily bearded people, not all, no, I'm not talking about all the women, but you know, the images that you get of explorers.
Yeah.
So, and I know that there was some inspiration from Mike in terms of the poles, but can you sort of start to share us the story that sort of prompted you both to decide to do the South Pole? I mean, who decides to do to the South? Who in the right mind think, oh, I know what we'll do. We'll walk to the South Pole.
I know. Well, it stems back because Mike had been told the story of Captain Scott when he was 7 by his father. From then, he always wanted to go to the South Pole. So when I met Mike, he used to talk about Antarctica and how I'd love to go. I used to humour him, yeah, as you do, didn't have any interest, but fine. And then eventually we went to a reading of Captain Scott's diaries at the RGS, Royal Geographical Society in London. And from then it kind of inspired us to want to do something and go and try and imagine what that experience would be like for Captain Scott. And the nearest that we could get and afford to go to was to Spitsbergen in northern Norway. So we went there, and then I realised, you know what, the beauty that place had to offer was amazing, and that just took me by surprise, if you like. I thought it would be a challenge, yes, but then that would be it. But oh no, I remember thinking, well, we sat in the tent one night and Mike just said, no British woman has walked to the South Pole, and just said, Fee, it could be you. And I thought, well, it could. And so it just spanned from there, really. You know, the scenery out there is positively amazing. You know, obviously you see the rose hints, you see obviously the white, but then, you know, you see the northern lights and the sun just tumbling along the hills, you know, the mountainside. It's just awe-inspiring, if you like.
Oh, it sounds absolutely amazing. And I say sounds amazing because actually I can remember seeing the images, because obviously I've seen your photos. Yeah, not all of them, but just, you know, but it's just, and I always remember thinking, I'd like to fly in.
Yes. You'll be amazing.
Well, I'm sure if I drilled myself, I could possibly do a little bit, but I mean, crikey. I mean, the training that you then went into to do that was phenomenal. I mean, we should actually also allude that during all this time, you've always worked.
Yes.
You've managed to do all of this and achieve all of this whilst you have still been effectively fully employed, albeit more recently, I think you've been in part-time hours, but predominantly through those times, you were employed full-time, and you took annual leave. And I believe Jane gave you some. Did she give you unpaid leave as well to do some of it?
Yes.
Yeah. So there was a combination, but you know, an understanding employer who again supported what you were doing. But you know, that aside, there was all the training. I mean, to go to the South Pole, which is what you did to start with. I mean, to get to that point, it's not just a case of deciding, oh, we'll go to the South Pole. You have to do an inordinate amount of training. So what did that involve? I mean, I know, but you know, to a degree, but if you can sort of share that.
Yes. Well, aside from what probably people would think would be the obvious, I did a lot of running. I used to run to work and back. So that was 11 miles each way. So I would either do that, I'd either cycle to work. But the other thing I had to do was pull a truck tire, which is the most boring, mundane exercise you could ever want to do or not want to do. It was means to an end. But that's the best exercise you can do here in England to simulate the same muscle group as pulling a sledge. So that's why I had to do it. But also, what I didn't quite appreciate at the time was how much that was training my mind, because like I said, it was mind-numbing. And so I could only do, the speed I could go was maximum was 1 mile an hour. That's how heavy it was, with the resistance and everything else. So it was a mind over matter. And I remember thinking, you know, Mike won't be watching me and, you know, or on the clock and thinking, oh, Fee can't have done all the distance because she's only been out for X. And so I would stop, and then I'd literally tell myself, and this is so true, that this is a matter, you know, this is mind over matter. Do you know what I mean? And it was a mind over matter, and that's so helped me when I was actually on my expedition.
Yes, I mean, Mike, obviously, I'm presuming Mike trained with you as well to get to the South Pole, but you would have trained at different times because of his role because he was obviously working full time as well in the police. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, now and again, we would take the trip tire out together.
Oh, I say, how romantic.
Yes, and then we'd take the trip tire, you know, to Derbyshire sometimes. So obviously we could go over all the hills and all different things. So yeah, we got very well known in the area.
Yes.
What we're doing.
It's not the normal sort of day out with your partner, is it?
No.
You've brought your friend, your tractor tire.
Yeah, but I remember thinking, I constantly used to think of the phrase, you know, this is the difference between winners and losers. And it's so true. And it's so many things are a mind game, aren't they?
Oh.
Be it even just putting your shoes on to go running. You know, I can sometimes put it off until later in the day and think, well, I've still got to go. And it's just such a mind game. It can work for you or against you, can't it?
Absolutely. It's all about the mind, and we can change our thoughts, we can change our mindset, we can change our behavior, because we aren't actually our thoughts. But once you start to observe them and you know what you can do with them, you can reprogram your mind, like you have alluded to. You know, it's like, okay, this is mind over matter. I can do this. I'm focused. And I know when we get onto your sort of South Pole story on your own, that is obviously what must have really, really driven you. But, you know, just to get to that point of doing the South Pole together with Mike there, which made you the first married couple when you got there. And I believe you arrived, it was January, was it actually January the 4th, Fee?
Yes, it was, yes.
Because you rang and left a message. I got you, but you rang. This is so spooky, because it was Fred's birthday, his first birthday. And ironically, he had just put a CD on, which was Barbie Girl by Aqua, which you'd bought me, and it was just like, whoa. It's just like, oh, it's making me go all tingly now. But I mean, wow, what an achievement. I mean, it was just, I mean, what did you feel like, the pair of you, when you got there?
It was obviously amazing, but what was then when we were taken into like the South Pole base, you can imagine you went from what would have been minus 35 or so with wind chill, and then you went through what felt like a curtain of hot air into a heated building. But you don't quite take in what you've done. You know, you're just to be delighted to suddenly arrived at semi-civilization and get something warm and not have to probably just put your tent up straight away. So it takes a long time to take in what you've actually achieved, really.
Yeah. And I suppose the thing we ought to mention as well is, doing the South Pole, you have to pull your own sledges. Is it sledges or sleds? Sledges? Sleds?
Yeah, well, either or, really. But yes, yeah, you have to pull your own sledge. Yes.
Yes. So in terms of all the prep, that obviously the tractor tire, you're then pulling absolutely everything you need to survive whilst you're out on that ice. There's no dogs, there's nothing out there, not even a friendly penguin to help you. You just got to pull your own stuff, and that's all your food. Obviously, as you just mentioned then about putting your tent up, you've got to put your tent up in that wind every day. And of course, then it's going to the loo as well. I mean, ooh, it's a bit chilly.
I know. Yes, well, Mother Nature still carries on, so yes. Yeah, no, everything takes a long time out there, which I know goes without saying. But even the matter of putting a kettle on here is just an instantaneous action, isn't it? Out there, you have to dig your snow. You have to then melt the snow. You then have to heat it up to, you know, a boiling point, if you like, and then make your drink. And that, well, takes probably an hour. It takes a long time to get everything sorted. So nothing is instant. Gosh,
no, absolutely not. And how long did it take you both to get there?
61 days.
61 days. And where you did it from one point, I do remember, when you say it, I'll remember where it was. Yeah. Where did you start?
Hercules Inlet, so on the edge of Antarctica.
So you had to go to South America, didn't you, to start with, to then be flown from South America to...
Yes, I went to Chile. I flew across the Drake Passage into Antarctica, and then from a base called Hatred Hills, then you went out to Hercules Inlet.
So, I mean, just even getting there is an expedition in itself, isn't it?
Yes.
Good grief. So you did that, and you didn't think, that's it.
No.
Somehow or other, you decided to do what, Fiona?
Walk to the North Pole. But
As you do.
Yeah, I had to persuade Mike to do it.
Oh,
And
really?
yes, because his aim was always just to do the South Pole. He had achieved his lifelong ambition, if you like. But I, as you said, wasn't satisfied. I thought I'd like to do the double. So then we went on to do the double. We would do the North Pole, which was amazing.
And that wasn't actually that much longer. There wasn't much of a distance between the two, was there?
No. We went out, I think it's six months later. Yeah.
Was it that quick?
Yeah. It
Oh my God.
wasn't long. After making the decision, it was 6 months.
Right. And you arrived there was that January 2001?
No, it was in it was May 2001.
Oh, May 2001.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, cool. So, and how long? And what's the difference between sort of the South Pole and the North Pole? I mean, is there a difference? I mean, obviously, not everybody's been to both. Not many people have been to either. But so, what's the difference between the two poles, and how's the challenge different?
Yeah, it's a huge difference, because when you go to Antarctica, you're walking overland. When you go to the North Pole, you're going to the Arctic and you're walking over a frozen ocean. So it's vastly different. So there's no comparison other than, obviously, yes, it's very white and it's very cold. But then the Arctic, you'll cross open water leads, which are like a river of water. So you'll have to work out how to cross those. Then you'll get the ice floes come together. And with the force of the ocean, then you'll have what, is like a wall of ice to cross. So it's constantly changing. It's like Everest, but a vertical Everest, if you like. There's all a lot of different hazards. There's polar bears, which are obviously man's predator. Mm-hmm. You don't want to see those. So, yeah, and we started, the ambient temperature was -52, but with wind chill, it was, and I remember we ran around like headless chickens because we didn't know what to do with ourselves. We were frozen, and I ended up with what looked like white mascara within what felt like seconds. It was a challenge.
Yes. You're mad.
That's why we get on.
Oh, then, crikey, Fiona. I mean, how long were you out there doing that? I can't remember now.
55 days.
Whoa. So you're talking nearly 2 months.
Yes.
Cold. Yes. Good grief. I mean, I knew you were away, but obviously time's elapsed, and it's like how long? And when you're not actually embracing it yourself, you don't, you can't. There's no way anybody that's not done it can sort of fully appreciate it. But it is sort of like jaw dropping, and the experience that you've had and what you've seen and the beauty of it all. It must, it's completely and utterly amazing. But then to have done the both. So then, what do you decide to do?
A solo and unsupported journey to the South Pole.
Glutton for punishment. Just unbelievable. And that, so obviously then, I mean, Mike took a trip out, didn't he? Because he obviously he was heading up. I don't know, is he still doing sort of trips for people, or?
Yes.
So he took a trip, didn't he? And you both arrived, you all arrived at the same time, but you went off on your own.
Yeah, actually, we didn't all arrive at the same time. That was the plan, Sarah, and the plan was that his expedition would greet me in. But I was 20 days ahead of my schedule. And so I arrived, and the day even before Mike had even set off, because he then got delayed by weather. So I had to wait for 20 days at the South Pole.
I know, I remember that. So you were camped out on ice at the South Pole, having walked on your own. You've done it. You've become the fastest solo person at that time to the South Pole, beating, was it a Swedish or Finnish lady that already actually?
Yes. Yes, Liv Arneson in 50 days. Yeah, she done it in 50 days, I think, back in 1994.
And you did it in how many days?
41 days and 8 hours.
Good Lord, were you running? Were you running?
Bit of girl power, Sarah, bit of girl power.
Absolutely. Forget the Spice Girls, girl power. Yeah. But how? What? I mean, was it literally just that mindset that, I mean, crikey. I mean, you were doing it on your own, pulling your own sledges. Let's get this real, people. Fiona's on her own. And you lost your satellite navigation as well, didn't you, at some point?
I didn't lose it. It just stopped working. So I didn't have my satellite phone. So I couldn't communicate with the outside world after 10 days now.
So how did you know which direction you were going in?
I had a compass and I had my GPS, my global positioning system.
And that was it?
Yes.
But there's a little bit of a caveat here, isn't there?
Oh, and I had an Argos beacon that would relay my position via satellites down to Mike's computer or his laptop to say where I was. Yeah,
but let's put this into perspective. So Fiona's lost satellite navigation. She's got a compass to get her to the South Pole. There are no road signs out there, are there?
No.
There's nobody going this direction. And I walk part of the Camino and there's a yellow shell as you're walking along the Camino. And none of that. And you get there. But then when you get an award for navigation, what happens when you return?
Oh, I got on the tram going the wrong way. So, yes. But then they still gave me the award and they were very polite.
It's just crazy, isn't it? So you're at the South Pole, because you've got all that kit and you're geared up for it, you know what you've got to do. And I have to say, interestingly, when I did the Camino, when we were in the sort of rural areas, it was really easy to follow. But as soon as you get to a town centre, you suddenly lose all of that. And it's like, it's not the same. Anyway, I digress. But I mean, I just think that's a lovely, lovely little story there. But so you got there and you did it, you got that record. And I remember you ended up being in the Guinness Book of Records, didn't you?
Yes.
So, and you'd beaten some of the guys out there because there was it a group of Koreans or Japanese? Koreans.
Yes.
And they weren't happy, were they?
No. No, they weren't. No. Yes, I did beat them. Yeah, we went out on the same aircraft and the pilot dropped me at one point. Obviously, he dropped them at a different point. So I never saw them from when I was dropped off by the pilot. But obviously, yeah, they weren't happy when I arrived before they did.
2 weeks, probably. Yeah. Was it 2 weeks before them as well?
No, it wasn't that long. I've forgotten exactly. But yes, yeah, I did, yeah. But also the Queen's cousin, Rosie Stancer, she beat them as well. So, yeah. So they're beaten by two ladies.
I'd forgotten you were racing against her as well, weren't you? So she came in quite close behind you, didn't she?
Yes, two days. And so, yeah, Rosie did amazing as well.
Yeah. So what did Mike think when he arrived to find you there?
He thought it's obviously wonderful. I remember me telling the people or asking the people at the South Pole that the ice needed neatening up for when they arrived. So anyway, they all helped out and made it all very special for them arriving. But yeah, it was fantastic. And to be reunited there and have been through the journey that we'd been through, and the fact that I'd obviously, my satellite phone wasn't able to work. Yeah, I don't know how you put it into words, to be honest.
No. Well, some things I think, and I say this quite often, words can be quite clumsy. They can't, however many words you could have, it's that sensory awareness, isn't it? That you're so tuned in. There's so much you can't even describe it because it's infinite, isn't it? You can't use words sometimes. You just it's that sense and that feeling.
Yeah, it's just so special.
Yeah. So wow. So then you have these awards, and obviously from there you then start to go on and you're doing talks, and I guess then, if I'm right, you had a bit of a break, but you've always been doing things. You and Mike have taken people then onto trips, haven't you?
Yes, yes. So we've taken people, and Mike as well, very much so. He's taken people to the North Pole who are blind, who are deaf. So yeah, it's just amazing how you want to help and inspire other people to achieve their dreams and follow them through. And people who have been on our expeditions, then they've learned so much more about themselves, and obviously, you know, what they've gone on to do after that. So
absolutely, because actually, as you said earlier, and we've discussed, mindset is a huge part of it. But then, as we've also covered, is that support and that encouragement, and that's something that I've always wanted to do all throughout all my life. And you know, as we're obviously working together in recruitment, it's just about supporting and encouraging people, and enabling them to know that, you know, everything is possible, you know, and it's turning things around. It's changing your mindset and your perception and how you describe things, and you makes a huge difference. Sometimes it's just the smallest shift of, you know, like your tractor tire, you know, it's like, you know, I can do this, I am doing this, you know,
yeah.
I'm winning, you know, absolutely, you know, and it just changes everything as soon as you change the wording and the phraseology and your behavior towards things. But you then went on to have your boys, didn't you?
I did, yes.
And
two boys
who are now how old, Fee?
Sebastian's 12, Conrad's 10, but yes, in a matter of weeks, I suppose Conrad's going to be 11. So
wow.
They're growing up as children do.
As they do, and they've had Mr. Motivator Mike during this lockdown period, sort of kicking Joe Wicks into touch with all his morning activities.
He has, yeah. We have our circuit training every morning, so yeah, it's brilliant.
Excellent. But you know, we've missed a little bit because actually you've also done something else. So forget the ice, you've left that. You've gone for somewhere a little bit different, haven't you, in the interim, which we sort of started talking about right at the beginning, which was climbing El Capitan. So first of all, why and what possessed you, and how did you go from sort of being on ice to suddenly, I mean, I know you've done climbing as that's sort of part of it, but how?
Well, I suppose, yeah, I was coming up for a big birthday, my big 5-0, so I wanted to mark it in some way. And also, quite a few years before this, I'd been out and I was doing a talk in Poland, and that's when I met Hans Florine. And he always said, Fee, if you ever come out to Yosemite, look me up, come out, you know, we can go climbing together, as you do. And so then, X amount of years on, I remember this, and dropped him a quick email and said, oh, I was just wondering about if you think it might be possible of me climbing the nose of El Capitan. One thing led to another. He invited me out. He's the same mindset as us. You know, you can achieve it, you can do it, of course you can. So I went on a bit of a training expedition and tried various climbs out to Yosemite because the exposure is huge, to see if it could be a possibility. And I remember phoning Mike from California and saying, Mike, I'm going to do it. And very kindly, Hans invited me then to do his 100th ascent of El Capitan, and there we go.
I know, but you say, there we go. If you've just gone round to tea with a friend. I mean, seriously.
I remember sleeping, as I mentioned earlier, on this portaledge and with Hans, and then on my little camcorder, it wasn't a camcorder, trying to think what it's called. Anyway, on my recording, should I say, I kept on saying, breakfast in bed with another man, breakfast in bed with another man. Anyway, there you go. The fact I was all sweaty and, you know.
You didn't take your lipstick with you on that trip then?
Pardon, sorry.
Lipstick with you on that trip. Oh, better put my lippy on just to make sure we look nice in the morning.
I did have my nails before I started, Sarah, and did take the nail varnish up with me.
Did you?
But the lipstick would have melted, otherwise would have done.
Was it the nice red one that you and Patty used to like?
It was. Of course, a corally red.
And a cool world, you know. But oh my God, I mean, the thing is, I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, and I didn't, this is like a sheer rock face. We're talking something like this, aren't we?
Yes, it's 2.5 times higher than the Shard in London.
And you climbed it and slept on the side of it as you're climbing up it?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, just, yes. As you
Yes,
do.
and so there's obviously sky above you, sky below you. And the first night, I must say, I just thought, oh my goodness, I'm not going to sleep. But you know what, as we've already said about mindset, the second night, I just thought how privileged I was to be in this environment, in this position, sleeping here, looking at all the stars. It was positively amazing. I will never do it again, but I've done it. But it was fabulous. And if anybody gets the opportunity, I'd recommend you seize it.
Yes, I think it might be an idea to know how to climb first, though.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So how long, I'm just curious, how long were you actually, did it take to climb? Because I know you said that, you know, he did it quite quickly, but obviously, you know, you hadn't climbed the nose before.
No.
How long did it take?
2.5 days.
2.5 days. So you had 2 nights sleeping on it, did you?
Yes. I mean, all I wanted to do was climb it, achieve it, and then get back down to the valley floor safely. I couldn't relax until I was back down in the valley floor. I mean, as you'll read, accidents happen on the descent, so you can't let your guard down at any point.
No. So how do you get back down? Do you have a very long rope, or is there a slide?
No, there's a walk with some abseils, but I must say I found that quite unnerving, because suddenly then I was at the top of obviously the mountain, but then I wasn't attached to anything, and we had these massive bags that then you had to carry down, which was like 3/4 the size of me, these haul bags. But then it's like, I thought, my goodness, if I kind of like topple over, which I wasn't going to do, then I could roll off. And it became even a big mind game at that point on the descent. And you would think, oh, well, that's the easy bit. It's like, well, actually, no.
No. I mean, I think, you know, as you say, I mean, I can climb. I'm not a climber, but do you know what I mean? I can walk up. I've walked up Scafell, and I've walked up Mount Snowdon. But I've always found, actually, it wasn't so much on Scafell, but coming down Snowdon, it hits your knees and it hurts. And then if obviously, as you said, you've got that added weight, and then you've got to try and balance, and you know, you've probably got that sort of shale underneath your feet. You've not got that security, have you? As you've got a straight rock face. I'm now trying to make it sound easy as well, but you wouldn't catch me doing it, Fee.
Part of me says I don't blame you, but I should be inspiring you. Come on, Sarah.
No, I am inspired. Honestly, I'm inspired. You inspired me to run. And I've done 3 half marathons. I think you've done some marathons as well, haven't you, along the way? Have you done?
I have. I've done a couple of official marathons. I've done marathon distance, then for training for expeditions and different things. I mean, I did the London Marathon because I wanted to run down the Mall. I'm sure I could have just run down the Mall, but no, I did the London Marathon. But again, that just fantastic.
Absolutely. So what's now then? I mean, actually, just before I say what's now, and I just want to again repeat that you've done all of this whilst you've worked, and also incorporated having a family, and so it is about mindset. It is about knowing what you want to do, what you want to achieve, having that goal, and then looking at what resources you've got and how you can then put it into place. And also, as we've said, I mean, Mike's a real sort of support and driving force, and he, you know, I know he'll be sort of weighing and measuring things and organising, because he is absolutely. In fact, if you could loan him over to me, I've got a bit of organising in my garage needs doing.
He's very organised.
But that helps, doesn't it? Because that takes that pressure off. So you've got that, you can focus on what you need to do within those constraints. Because actually, when you're working towards a goal, if you've got it sort of set out and you know what you've got to do, you know, you can drive and work towards that, can't you?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I couldn't have done it without him. And as you said, everything was weighed out, measured. I had the lightest equipment, you know, all my food was kind of like put into different bags, you know. I didn't have any excess weight in there at all.
No, absolutely. So what next? Have you got anything on the agenda that you've kept under wraps so far? Oh, I know, sorry, I jumped the gun. We've just forgotten to mention the MBE.
Sorry, I'll have to apologise.
I don't suppose you've got it with you. I should have asked you to have it to hand, but
well, I have it in my drawer if you want me to go and guess it.
Maybe we can sort of pause or cut it. I can get Fred to cut it in a bit. Yes, go get your investiture. Is it to hand?
One moment, young lady.
One moment. Madam's going to get her investiture to prove the MBE. I have seen the photographs. It's not a Blue Peter job at all, is it, Fiona? It's not one she made earlier at all. It's the real deal. So I think we really do need to touch on this because it's quite an accolade to be given an MBE. Wow. Amazing. That's lovely, and it matches your picture behind you as well, which is perfect.
Oh, I like to be colour coordinated. This is the Queen and I.
Oh, I say, lovely. Perfect. So do you ever wear it? Do you ever wear it?
No, I don't. But no. But it is a real privilege and honour to have been given that.
Yeah.
So a member of the British Empire.
Absolutely. Wow. Well done. Congratulations. I tell you what, I'll give you a high five for that.
Please do.
That looked like you're giving me a Spock.
Oh, dear, sorry.
Oh, it's so brilliant. What next? What's on the Thornewill agenda?
No. I'm not quite sure, but since I have said for a long time, since 2007, when I took some ladies to the South Pole and raised money for breast cancer, about rowing the Atlantic. But people keep on saying that they'll come to my welcome party in Antigua. So I haven't got anybody who's like, or people then I speak to and they've got a team, but I don't know. I may do that. I may do that yet. I have got to learn how to row though, Sarah, but I can do that, can't I?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, Fee.
No. Sarah, you could be my companion.
I think it's something like that.
Yeah, that's it. I'll sign you up, Sarah.
Thank you.
Just think of the all over tan.
Not doing too badly.
No.
Nothing in stone at the moment then, just sort of taking it a little bit easy, but I don't expect you taking it easy. I bet you've been for a run this morning.
Yes, yeah. Oh yeah, no, I've definitely got to keep fit. And I will do something, but what that is, I'm not quite sure. And as you know, you've got to be fully committed, fully focused to anything like that. It doesn't just happen, does it? You can't just decide, I'm going to do X and then that's it. So we'll see. I mean, when I climbed the nose of El Capitan, I used to practice Jumaring up our garage and all different things. So
you practice doing what up the garage?
Jumaring. You have to, if you can't climb a certain part of the route, then you do what's Jumaring. So you have your feet in these stirrups and you do.
Oh, okay.
Which is not straightforward either, because everything's down to technique and
yeah.
So
absolutely.
I will do something. I will do something.
Yeah, I was going to say, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you've achieved so much. I mean, it's yeah. I think you could just have a nice long lay down, personally, but not you. To conclude, so thank you so much for sharing all of this with me. I mean, obviously, as we've known each other, I've seen all of this happening, but it's great to have had this opportunity just to sort of sit and talk and hear you explain it and describe it and go into more detail, which has been brilliant. And I hope everybody listening is sort of kind of inspired and they can get out there and do, because there is, whatever your goal is, however big or small, it's just about mindset and focusing on it and making it happen, really. Because it's taking action at the end of the day, and like you said, taking the opportunities as they're presented. So yeah, thank you ever so much, Fee. Really appreciate your time this morning. But how do people contact you if they want to get in touch with you for to come and do some motivational speaking, or they want to book you and Mike to take them on a trip to Sainsbury's? On a trip to the South Pole.
Yes, so through Facebook, LinkedIn, and obviously with my name, Fiona Thornewill, so very straightforward, or on our website, which is the www.polarchallenge.org.
Absolutely. .org it is, yeah.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. So if you want to go and get a bit chilly for a few days, if Fiona and Mike a shout.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so just follow those dreams. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Exactly, exactly. And yeah, brilliant. So thank you so much, Fiona. And
Thank you for inviting me.
Pardon?
I said, thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much. So we will say goodbye for now and thank you very much.